Greetings and welcome, adventurers. This is part 2 of the Factions series. Again, this is mainly for the players in my campaign, but if you happen to find this video online, then feel free to watch. So, coming off of the second campaign, the players all are making their way towards their own faction towns. Now I shall go over each character one at a time. The first character to enter the faction is Abel. She enters the town of the Extraordinary. The town is a very nice, well-kept town. There are towers of wizards and sorcerers as far as the eye can see. The road of the town isn't necessarily a road, more of a carpet imbued with different spells and runes to keep it constantly clean. Everyone there seems very wealthy, yet snobbish to a sense. Abel makes her way down the road until she reaches a large faction hall. There she meets with the secretary of the hall. The secretary asks for Abel's name, and then after after a short while, she gives Abel a new badge, signifying her as part of the Extraordinary. After that, Abel makes her way down throughout the town. Abel, being a more smart character than the rest of the gang, decides that she wants to go and try to dabble in some potion making. She walks around town for a bit until she finds a potion shop. Inside there was a small old lady. She makes a small little talk with the old lady, and she asks for a few things to make potions with. The old lady ducks behind the counter and picks up a plant that's about the same size as her and puts it on the counter. She then breaks off a few pieces of the branches and gives it to Abel. Each branch is 1 gold per branch. Abel thanks the old lady and walks out. She then goes to one of the public alchemy stations and makes about 10 potions of healing there. The next person to find their faction hall is Malkeith. Malkeith walks into the town of the Vanguard. There are many different shops open there, each one selling their own different versions of monster goods. Each building is more of a different hut kind of put together in what seems to be a hurry, but at the same time they don't look weak at all. They look very strong and very sturdy. He makes his way to the Grandeur Tower Hall. There he meets a large, fairly big sized man. He asks for Malkeith's name and gives him a pendant, signifying him as part of the Vanguard. Malkeith then makes his way throughout town, talking to different people and eventually finding a small little birdcage area. Inside there are many different animals that are kept inside there. He talks to the shopkeeper and he explains that this is a place where he captures small creatures and they sell them to go on hunting parties with. Malkeith takes this into consideration but ultimately decides to leave. The third one on the list is Yangwen Li. Yangwen Li walks onto the sandy dirt road of the mass. Everywhere around him there are stone buildings, not very well elegantly put in place, but yet very strong. Around every corner is a different coliseum, giant stone pillars litter the street, each one symbolizing the strength of another person. The first thing Yangwen Li notices is the amount of people there that are all very enthusiastic and patriotic about the mass. Each one high-fives each other and gives each other fist bumps as they walk throughout the street. Yangwen Li makes his way towards the faction hall. There he encounters a large dragonborn male. The dragonborn asks for his name and then gives him a pendant, telling him that he is now part of the mass. Yangwen Li then decides to tour the town a little bit, ultimately deciding that he wants some fighting practice in. He goes to a nearby coliseum and without thinking walks down the steps straight into the fighting area. There he is encountered with another stronger opponent. Yang Wenli initiates a combat scene, but is ultimately defeated by being thrown against the wall, slammed against the ground repeatedly, and ultimately getting knocked out. The fourth up is Skara. Skara's first impressions of the town of the dust were very disappointing. All the town's houses seemed very shabby. The overall aura of the entire town just seemed gray in general. She made her way to the town hall to where there was an old, feeble woman there. She gave Skara a pendant symbolizing that she was part of the dust. But she also gave Skara a small little bag called a dust collector's bag. With this bag, Skara can go over defeated enemies and collect their dust. This was the way that the faction had their currency. Because the faction was so poor in general, regular currency wasn't allowed there. Instead, they had to trade using this new currency called dust. Skara walked around town for a bit, and she tried to ultimately find a new holder for her egg. She found a small little shacky store. Inside, she did find a baby carrier, but it cost 200 dust, something she had not yet had. So she told him to put it on hold, and she left the building. The last one to make it to town was Balthazar. Balazar. The last one to make it to a town was Balazar. Balazar entered the town of the Solar Rain. The entire town was filled with giant gilded buildings, blues and golds and reds, only the finest of gems showing everywhere. Each shop seemed to have legendary equipment just waiting to be released into the wild. Balazar walked into the Solar Rain town hall, and there he found the person who would give him his pendant and also greet him to the Solar Rain. He walked out into the town and found the first weapon shop he could find. Inside, he asked for a sword. The sword would give him increased stealth, and this is exactly what Balazar wanted. However, it cost too much for him at the time, so he decided to leave and come back for another day. With each character having a little taste of their town in mind, they all went back to their town halls as they were summoned. Each player got to meet with the leader of that specific town. Abel got to meet with the young young yet powerful wizard of the extraordinary. Malekith got to meet with the very, very gruff-looking man of the Vanguard, who wielded a giant greatsword. Yang Wenli got to meet with the giant dragonborn male, who was overall strong in general. Skara got to meet with the feeble old man that led the dust, and Balazar got to see the silhouette of the many-limbed man behind the curtain. Each one of them told them that new summons were being summoned from a vacant area of land. This area of land was a wasteland. This area of land used to be a battleground between demons and humans. However, the war there has been over for years, so they did not expect much of a threat going there. They did, however, assemble a few different factions to go with them just in case anything went awry. It was at this point that I also introduced the secret missions to each player. Each player would be given a different mission and would not be told the same mission as the other ones. Each player would be given a secret mission that only they would know and could only give up if they chose to do so on their own will. For this first campaign, I chose to give them all the same mission. The mission was to go and recruit the new ancient summons that were being summoned there. And yeah, their new mission was, their secret missions were to go and recruit the ancient summons, and whoever can recruit the most summons to their factions would be given one faction coin. This was all for X. This accounted for all of them except for Balasar. Balasar's goal was to make the summons join a different faction that didn't already have a player in it, i.e. Chaotic Fraction, Dark Sigil, or Desolates, one of those. With this in mind, a faction coin is a type of currency that can only be used in that specific type of faction, yet is very, very great to have, as you can buy many, many different valuable items with it. With that being said, they decided to take off towards a new place. They were being led by a new person. This person was a different kind of character, as he was from the Order of Holy Knights. He was being played by the character known as Ryan. He's being played by the player Ryan. This character was a large paladin-like guy, and always liked to be on the cheery side of things. He led the group and the rest of the factions throughout the lands. As they got closer and closer to their stops, they started realizing that there was more of a strange terrain approaching. They started seeing large spikes sticking out of the ground. On these spikes had different little vines creeping down the sides of them, and on these vines had different little smaller spikes on them. When Yang Wenli asked what they were, the paladin said that they were demon spikes. They essentially were what grew out of the ground from where a demon died long ago. The further they traveled, the more and more of these spikes occurred. The army got very cautious at one point, and they were right in doing so, because as they were getting that cautious feeling, demons started sprouting out of the ground, attacking the faction halls. The players ran out just in time to avoid the battle, and they ran for the ancient summons. In the middle of the chaos, the players ran for their lives. The players split up from their parties, but all managed to reconnect at the same place where the ancient summons were being found at. Instead of the average ancient summon ruins, however, this place had a large wooden fence around it, which was very strange, as it looked more new and furnished than the rest of the old gray stone tower. They all talked for a while and decided that they should work together on this, as they were missing their factions. They decided to go into the gate, and as one unit instead of all separate enemies. It was at this time that the new players started getting summoned in. Again, the same ritual happened. There was black, light, and then the new character walked in. A younger looking fellow by the name of Squishy, played by the player Taku. He looked around the room to see a large, giant, about 7-foot man being grappled onto the wall by 6 other bandits. No, he saw a large, giant, about 7-foot man being grappled onto the wall by 6 bandits. Squishy ran for the wall to get his equipment, and he pulled out a bow. The first reaction was to shoot the large man. As he fired an arrow towards him, he missed completely and hit one of the bandits right in the back, making him screech in pain. With one bandit loose, the large man was able to overpower the rest of the bandits and threw them aside. He defeated, after a short battle with them, a new player came in with an unknown name. A new character came in with an unknown name. He should be called Question Mark for right now. This character was being played by the player James. And this is James 2, not the first one, who is playing Balasar. After defeating the bandits, they all decided to recollect a little bit. The large man said that his name was Girth, which I know is a very strange name. But yet the players, no matter how much they laughed, still decided to accept him as their party. The large man explained that his name was Girth and that he was just summoned here. He said that there was another ancient summon that was pulled up into the tower by some bandits a little while ago, and that he doesn't know exactly what's going on yet. Squishy, making the most genius of moves, decided to run over to Girth, pull down his pants, and then run up the stairs up towards the tower. The mystery character, on the other hand, decided to use this opportunity to sneak out of the door. As he snuck out of the door, he was met with the rest of the group of Scarra, Balasar, Yang Wen-Li, Malkeith, and Abel outside. As he walked out of the door, the five of them instantly decided to try to promote their factions in order to get those sweet, sweet faction coins. Was very confused at this point, but it did not last long as Girth bust through the doors, and then he held them back. They all decided to try to question him and say, "Hi, how can we help you, eh?" Hoping that he would respond with some kind of pleasant attitude and join their faction. Instead, he said, "If you want to help me, please help me take care of these bandits." And as that happened, 10 bandits burst through the doors. The party was now in a fight with the bandits. There was arrows flying everywhere, daggers slashing at each other's faces, Yang Wen-Li punching people in the face because they're a martial artist monk, Scarra running behind and stabbing people in the neck, Abel making sweet shots with her bow and hitting people directly in the eyes, and then of course Balasar sneaking around, stealing people's money and then stabbing them in the throats. And then of course Malkeith in the background healing everybody, as this was what his job was right now. After the battle was over, Girth explained to the teammates that there was another person up on top of this fire, and that if they wished to go save him, he was also another ancient summon. Realizing that this might be another way of getting money, they decided to head up towards the spire. At this time, was taken back towards the faction towns and was saved. It was later revealed that he would join the chaotic faction. Traveling up the staircase, they did encounter a few more enemies, but they were able to skip these enemies as during this time this session was coming to a close. Going up the stairs, they walked into a large room with 3 doors on it. As they walked into there, they heard something. They all jumped out of the way just in time to avoid being smashed by a giant rock. 5 seconds after the dust had cleared, Girth got up and said, "Is everybody alright?" They all said yeah, and he laughed a little bit, saying, "Good thing that didn't squish any of us." But as he was saying that, 2 bandits ran up to him, saying, "Hey boss, we did what you said. The statue thing woke up, but we put a little emblem thing that you gave us on it, and it went back to stone." The players looked at Girth. Girth looked at the players. He then looked at the bandits and told them that they were idiots. He then pulled out his crossbow, shot a rope on the ceiling, and that all the doors locked shut. He then explained to them that he was the bandit chieftain of this camp, and that they were coming with him because he wanted to get the pay for himself. And that they were coming with him because some certain contractors paid him a lot of money for them. The players did not want this, and they decided to get into a battle with Girth. The 2 bandits at Girth's side were quickly taken out, but Girth wasn't, however. Girth wielded his giant longsword, swinging at the players. He swung at Yang Wen-Li, who took a massive blow to the chest. Abel fired a few different arrow volleys at Girth, but yet he tanked through them all. Malkeith ran over to heal Yang Wen-Li and as he's doing so, Scarra and Balthasar both ran over to take on Girth. Girth did take some damage, but he easily threw them aside. As Scar and Balasar were being thrown aside, Abel then decided to run over even faster. Yeah. As Scar and Balasar were thrown to the side, Abel ran over to the side, firing a few more volleys of arrow into Girth. Girth, being angered by these arrows, ran over to Abel and slammed her against the wall. He then decided to try to start to choke her out. Just as Abel was losing breath, Yang Wenli jumped on top of Girth's back, putting him into a chokehold instead. As he's being put into a chokehold, Balasar ran over with two of his short swords and stabbed them right into Girth's stomach, as Girth screamed in pain. Scar ran over, and doing one of the most clever things she could do, shoved a rag into his mouth, poured alcohol onto it, and then she lit it ablaze with a flint of steel. Girth's mouth set on fire, and then his entire head became emblazed in flames. Scar fired a few more arrows at him just to knock him backwards, and then Malekith delivered the final blow, swinging a large sword cutting off Girth's head. The players that did it, they had defeated the bandit chieftain. However, just as that happened, the chaotic faction, Dark Sigil, and Desolates all broke into the doors. They all said that they were taking those two new summons for themselves. As the players weakened from the battle knew that they could not defeat the three factions by themselves. However, with quick thinking, Yang Wenli ran over to the statue that the bandits were talking about and removed the stone marker. As he did so, stone fell off the statue, revealing that there was a young, white-haired woman inside. She too was the ancient assistant. She calmed the factions and told them that they would have to figure this out on their own. She calmed the factions and told them that the ancient summons would have their own wishes, and she calmed the factions and told them that the ancient summons could have their own choice of what factions they would join. With that being said, she calmed Squishy down, who was hiding in the corner. She asked him what faction he would like to join. It was at this... I should clarify, at this point, Balasar had already been talking to both Question Mark and Squishy. Balasar had a pretty good influence on them, and they both decided to join Chaotic Faction. So at this point, Squishy, of course, joined the Chaotic Faction. Balasar was ecstatic. The rest of the group, however, could care less, as they decided to loot the bandit stronghold. There wasn't much of anything to find in there. Yang Wenli did find a book of questionable origin, and as he opened the book, he found that it was filled with a language he did not understand. Abel found a large wagon full of different tomes and stolen books that the bandits had found over the years, but yet did not know what to do with them either. Malekith, Scar, and Balasar all found different little item equipment pieces to upgrade their armors. The group then decided to walk out of the tower as their mission was completed. As they walked into the fresh morning air, they all looked out to the horizon, wondering what the new adventures would bring them. However, Balasar did see something strange in the distance. In the far distance, past the first set of mountains, Balasar could have sworn that he saw one of the mountains start moving. And that's where the session ended. Again, sorry for more of a improv version of this script today. I didn't really want to write a script for this one just because it was such a quick session and not much plot actually happened. But then again, thank you guys for listening, and I will see you guys next time.